We're installing a plug-and-play remote starting system in a 2008 Toyota RAV4 with a standard key. Standard key can be identified by checking for this dot stamped into the metal on the base of the key. The system is capable of starting the vehicle by locking the doors 3 times from the OEM remote. It is also capable of accepting RF antenna kit upgrades and smartphone controllers. We're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to install a remote starter that uses a smartphone controller and can be activated from the OEM factory remote by 3-press. Unit can be started from the OEM remote or the smartphone controller. We'll shut it off from the smartphone controller. We can lock and unlock the doors. Can unlock the doors. I'm going to start by disassembling the vehicle. We have 2 Phillips screws under the dash right here. We're going to go ahead and we're going to remove the 2 Phillips screws. Apply outward pressure, remove the under dash. We're now going to take the steering column cover plastic off. I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm going to take the key to the vehicle. The key in, turn the ignition to the on position or unlock the steering wheel. I'm going to turn it over to this position here. I'm going to move the camera to show you what you have to release. So we're on the other side and we're going to do the same thing. Just going to create a little gap here and we're going to go ahead and we're going to remove the steering column cover plastic. With both clips released, we're going to recenter the steering wheel. Shut the ignition off and remove the key. We're going to apply pressure to the side of the steering column with our thumb and we're going to pop the plastic cover off of the vehicle. This will give us access to the ignition and the immobilizer. Our system uses 3 plug-in connection points: the ignition of the vehicle, the diagnostic plug, and the BCM plug located on the back of the BCM. The system will also require 2 traditional connections at the immobilizer and 1 connection at the key sense wire. I'm going to get started with the main ignition plug connection. Our ignition plug connection is a separate harness we're going to install. We're going to locate the ignition plug. There's a clip on the top. When pressed, it will release the plug. Press the clip down. Remove the ignition plug to the vehicle. Use the ignition plug located on the ignition T-harness to plug into the ignition switch. Make sure it clicks and locks. Plug the ignition switch plug that you've removed from the ignition into the other side of the T-harness. The T-harness for the ignition also has a ground wire. This must be grounded to a metal surface with no plastic. I like to use the bolt, 10mm bolt, located right here on this bracket. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to apply our system ground to this bolt. We're going to remove the 10mm bolt. And ground our system. And reinstall the bolt. The next step is to release the diagnostic plug from the dash housing. We're going to press the ears in on the side and release the plug. You're going to do this on both sides of the plug. The plug will come out of the back of the dash. Our second connection point will be our diagnostic plug connector. We have a diagnostic plug end that will plug into the plug that you removed from the housing, and then we have a new diagnostic plug that will mount in the housing. This will give you access to your diagnostic plug while giving us connections for the remote start. We're going to lock the plug into the housing. Our next connection point will be at the back of the BCM. Okay, we're looking at the fuse box up underneath the dash to the left of the steering column. There's a BCM plug in the back of this box right here that we're going to remove, and we're going to plug our BCM T-harness plug into this. I'm going to try to give you a better look. We're looking at the back side of the BCM, which is also the fuse box. We're going to remove the plug from the BCM We're going to plug our T-harness end into this plug, and we're going to plug this end into the back of our T-harness. Okay, here's a picture with our plug in place. Again, we're right up here on the top back side of the BCM. Now you can see that we've plugged the BCM plug that we removed from the BCM into the other side of our T-harness plug. Now, two traditional connections must be made at the immobilizer plug. It's a little bit hard to get to because there's a plastic shield behind it that won't allow you to unplug the plug. So I'm going to show you how to get this loop, the immobilizer loop, off of the vehicle so you have access to the plug so you can count the pins and identify the wires you need to connect to. You can't go by color because there's duplicate colors. So we need to go by pin location and then verify the color at that location. I'm going to show you how to remove this ring. You're looking at the top of the ignition switch. I flipped the plastic cover up to get a little better access. Now this is the transponder ring, and it's held on by plastic tabs that lock over this metal piece right here on the ignition. So we have to kind of lift up on this so it can clear the tab and slide off. There's a tab on the opposite side. On this particular vehicle, I am doing a reinstall, taking out an old starter that doesn't work. So somebody already broke the tab off the other side. I'll show you where it's located. So we're looking at the bottom of the ignition switch, and the tab that they broke off is right here. So yours that hasn't been taken apart will have another tab here, and you have to lift out the tab so it slides over this metal piece right here, and this ring will come right off of the ignition. I'm going to show you that. So to remove the ring, we're going to use a pick tool. We're going to come up from behind, and we're going to lift this tab up. Now, if we have two tabs, we have to do one and then go down to the other. Just going to pick up on the corner and pop the ring off. We can now slide the ring forward and remove it. And like I said, if this other side wasn't broken, you would have to release that tab also. So that's what it looks like. That's what you picked up on to slide it off. Now we can get at the plug, and you can see the plastic shield that won't allow you to unplug the immobilizer. We've routed the immobilizer down underneath the steering column. We're going to go ahead and we're going to unplug the plug. There's a clip that will press in, and we'll just unplug the immobilizer. We're going to identify the pins that we're going to need to connect to. We're going to need to make two traditional connections since we don't have a plug for the immobilizer. We're going to be connecting to what's called the RX and the TX on the vehicle. So I'm going to show you how to identify the wires you need. So on our schematic, we have a picture of the immobilizer plug. The orientation of the picture is looking at the plug from the back where the wires enter with the clip in the upright position. We're going to be wanting to connect to pin number 4 and pin number 5. So what we'll do on the vehicle is we'll orientate the plug the same way, and we're going to count over. We're going to be counting spaces because there's not a wire in each space on the plug. There is an empty space. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to identify our RX and TX wires. Okay, I've separated the wires so that you can see. As I stated, the clip must be in the upright position looking at the plug from the back where the wires enter. They're duplicate wire colors, so we're going to count the pins. 1, 2, 3 is empty. As I stated before, there are some empty pins that don't have a wire. This pink right here would be pin 4. This green would be pin 5. The pink is what's called the RX. The green is what's called the TX. So we're going to isolate these two wires and we're going to make our connections. You may want to go down a little bit on the harness to make the connections at a lower point so we don't have the taps all jammed up in that plastic shield. So we can go ahead and we can slide the wires to identify our wires. The green, there's only one dark green, so we're going to use that. And then our pink wire would be this wire right here. These are our target wires. The pink is our RX, the green is our TX. We're going to apply a posi tap to our RX wire. The RX wire, remember, was the pink wire. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to take the tap apart. There's a piece with a groove in it. We're going to put the piece with the groove in it over the wire. And then we're going to put the tap back together. We're going to screw it back together. There's a little needle inside that's going to pierce through the wire and provide a connection point. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to do our TX. Now you want to make sure you do not cross thread the taps. If they don't hit the wire in the center, they're not going to make a solid connection. We're going to go ahead and we're going to locate the last connection on the vehicle, and then we're going to make our connections to both the RX, the TX, and what's called the key sense wire. I'm going to show you how to locate that. Our key sense wire is located on this 2-pin plug on the side of the ignition. We're looking for this dark blue wire right here. We're going to go ahead and we're going to apply a posi tap to this wire for our key sense wire. The key sense wire will provide a negative signal to our remote starter to let the remote starter know when the key is in the vehicle. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to slip the groove piece of our posi tap over the dark blue wire, and then we're going to screw the tap back together. And don't over tighten them, just crank them down so they're tight. They don't have to be squeezing the wire. So we just have them fully tightened like that. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to make our connections. Now on your harness you'll have a pigtail with 3 wires. You're going to unband the pigtail and you're going to run these wires up the main harness that comes up underneath the steering column. We're going to pull it up so we have a few inches past the bottom of the harness here. So we're going to leave about this much so everything's comfortable underneath the steering column. We're going to zip tie the harness in place before we make our connections. You want to also keep in mind that the steering column is telescopic, so we do everything with the wheel in the full outright position. That way when we get done and we have everything zipped, we don't come up short and we wouldn't be able to move the steering column all the way out if we don't provision for that. Okay, so we're going to make our RX and our TX connections. First wire is our RX. We're going to go ahead and we're going to locate our light blue wire with a black stripe, and we're going to remove the insulation from the end. It's going to leave you about 1/4 of an inch of bare wire. We're going to loosen the collar of the posi tap and we're going to insert the wire into the posi tap. The wire will bottom out. We'll push it in a little deeper. You'll feel it go deeper, and then you'll tighten up the collar and pull on the wire to give it a test to make sure that it's in there solid. So now we're going to do our TX, which is the dark green. Our RX was the pink, our TX is dark green. So we're going to take our light blue wire, strip the end, insert it into the posi tap collar, tighten down the collar. Give it a pull test to make sure it's in there. We're going to move on to our key sense wire. Remember, we must reinstall the ring in order to program the device. So once we get to this point, we can go ahead and route our harness back up, and we can slide the ring back onto the ignition switch. The next connection is the key sense. We're going to connect our white and black wire to the key sense. Again, we're going to remove the pre-stripped end, loosen the collar on the tap. We're going to insert the wire into the collar, push it in, and then tighten the collar down. Our key sense wire is complete. So we have our RX, our TX, and our key sense connected. This completes the mandatory connections of the system. We're going to advance to programming our device. Just something to remember. Some of these year group RAV4s don't have an immobilizer plug. If you're using this video to install on a different Toyota vehicle with a similar installation, if you don't have an immobilizer plug, you can use the phone number on the front of your device to contact me for alternate programming instructions. We can still make it work. So to program the device, we're going to locate the program button on the top of the Evo module. We're going to press and hold the program button down while we plug in the 6-pin power plug. When we do this, the lights on the front are going to begin to cycle. There's a blue, a red, and a yellow. We want to release when we have a solid red light. If we release the button on red, the light will stay red. So whatever color you release on, that's what color the light stays. And for this programming, we need to release on red. So I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. So the lights are going to begin to cycle. There's red, we would let up on the button. If we fail to let up on the button, and we let up on another color, we got to unplug the plug and repeat the procedure. We're going to hold the program button down, plug in the 6-pin plug. Now if we plug it in and we're too slow to release, we can keep the button down. The lights will cycle around and eventually go to solid red again. We can release on the second time. So with the light solid red, we want to plug in the remaining connectors. Be careful not to touch the button again. If you touch the button again while you're plugging in the remaining connectors, you got to repeat the procedure, the release on red procedure. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to plug in what's called the 20 pin. Now on the back side, we're going to plug in the white plug. At this point, we're ready to begin programming. Now we're going to need the key to the vehicle. We're going to insert the key into the ignition, but we're not going to turn the key on. If we have everything correct, all our connections are good, the red light will begin blinking. If we don't have good RX, TX, or key sense connections, the light will stay red. So we've inserted the key, we have a blinking light. The light will blink and go off. At this point, we want to turn the key to the run position. Our immobilizer programming is complete, so we have a good key sense connection, we have good RX and TX connections. Now we're going to turn the key to the run position. The blue light will come on and flash rapidly. At this point, our module is programmed. We can shut the key off and remove it from the ignition. We can go ahead and verify that our device is programmed by locking the door one time, and you will see the blue light blink. This verifies that we have communication between the module and the vehicle. We're going to go ahead and close up the vehicle and test the remote start. The manual transmission loop must be cut at this point in order for the remote starter to operate from 3-press. We're outside of our vehicle. We're going to activate the remote start. Our vehicle is started and will run for 15 minutes. The keyless entry will remain functional on the OEM remote during remote start. There's lock, and there's unlock. We can shut the vehicle off by pressing lock 3 times. This completes the basic installation for 3-press remote starting. I'm going to continue on with a couple upgrades and advanced features. We offer the remote starter kit with the optional 2-way transmitters, the RF642w. You get a pair of RF642w remotes. You can lock, you can unlock, and you can start the vehicle with 2-way confirmation. I'll show you a remote start from unit. So we can go ahead and we can start the vehicle from the remote. You'll see the light is pulsing, letting us know the vehicle just tried to lock the doors. That's what the noise is about. I have the door open while I'm trying to lock it with the remote. So you'll see that you can tell that the engine is running because the green light is pulsing on the 642W, and it emitted a tone when we started the vehicle. I'm not going to show you how to program the 642W because we sell it as a kit and we pre-program it before we ship it. So this is the 642 combo, and you still retain the ability to start with your OEM remote or shut it off from the OEM remote. So we can still use the OEM remote. So we just shut it off from the OEM remote. I'm going to show you another RF antenna kit. Okay, this is the 411 remote. Uses the similar antenna to the 642W with the blue light. This remote is capable of locking, unlocking, and starting the vehicle. It is a one-way remote. It does not give you confirmation back of the commands, but it still will increase your range. This will get far more range than the OEM remote, but you do not lose the ability to start the vehicle from the OEM remote. So it's not a bad idea to hang one of these on your keychain for extended remote starting. We can lock the doors, we can unlock the doors. Doors are locked now. I'm going to unlock them. I'm going to push 2 times and unlocks the doors. Pressing it once locks the doors. You're going to get that. There we go. We have the doors locked. Now I'm going to start the vehicle as a press and hold. This will come in at a lower price point than the 642W, but still give you that long range starting capability. Again, this is the 411. I'm going to show you now the MyCar smartphone controller. I'll shut the vehicle down. And remember, you can still 3-press start the vehicle. This is the MyCar smartphone controller. It's available with the kit. It'll allow you to access locking, unlocking, and starting from your smartphone. It also will allow you to locate the vehicle with GPS tracking. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to show you how to use this. Now remember, if you buy any of these kits you buy, we program the device to the Evo before we ship it. So you don't have to worry about knowing how to program the device. We've connected our MyCar. We're going to go ahead. I'm going to lock the doors. Now I have the door open, so you're going to hear that noise. I'm going to push in the plunger switch on the door jamb to shut it off. So there we go. We've sent the lock command. So now I'm going to send the unlock command. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to start our vehicle. Takes a couple seconds. There we go. We have our vehicle up and running. We're going to get a confirmation back. Now if you notice, we have, stop that, we have a signal strength icon. We have a battery voltage icon also. Now we can go ahead and we can locate the vehicle with the GPS tracking also. And that's exactly where the vehicle is. We'll go ahead and go back, and we're going to shut our vehicle off. So there you have it. There's 4 different variations for this item. Follow the links in the description to purchase the items on eBay. And remember, no matter what variation you have, you can always start the vehicle with 3-lock from the OEM remote. And we can also shut the vehicle off.